Super Bowl is less than 24 hours away. Bear with me one moment. I am having some technical difficulties, but I'm going to go ahead and post this. I had some Instagram issues, but we should be good to go. So, all right, there we go. Perry, Chiefs are, going to the Super Bowl, man. I mean, I mean, seriously, I'm geeked out of my mind. I'm geeked out of my mind. Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. Really geeked out. Bear with me here. I'm having some technical difficulties. Great. All right. So I'm starting off the show not so hot. So bear with me just 1 second here. I'm going to get everything ironed out. Here, something's goofy with the Instagram feed. I'm trying my best. Like I'm still banned off of Facebook for whatever stupid reason. So I'm trying to post on Instagram. So there it is. Okay. 48 hours till Super Bowl. I want to go over no show next week. I'm taking next week off. When I come back, I want to talk about the Hall of Famers, go over some of the NFL awards. But if you're really interested, I can give you my thoughts and opinions on that. A really good Hall of Fame class. I'm also going to go over how I do my plus minus system going into 2024 and how I view the teams, how I feel like they're going to progress. And then keep in mind, I kind of update this. Usually I don't share this with you guys, but I'm going to just give you an idea of how I look at each team going into the season. But I am going to take 1 week off next week. So I won't be back until the following Tuesday. So what's that? 10 days, 12, something like that. However, on my social media links are below. If you hit me up on social media, if you're one of my friends wherever, then go ahead and send me a request. If you haven't, but if you are one of my, just DM me if you want to talk. Jimmy! Oh man, I got Jimmy. Jimmy, we are going to talk some prop bets. We are going to talk some prop bets tonight. My girlfriend is a Reba McEntire fan. She says white boots during the national anthem for plus 500 and showing cleavage for plus. By the way, the showing cleavage for plus 300 is a good one. Is a good one. I'm going to stick with just the game, but these are great, Jimmy. I'm so glad to see you. I only have one bet on the game. Patrick Mahomes MVP for plus 125. I think it's a great bet. However, I'm a Chiefs fan. So I kind of want to talk about the 49ers. Just a general rule of thumb, these are great props. What fantastic, what a great job by Jimmy. Jimmy, I've missed you, man. So good to see you. I'm predicting a 27-23 Chiefs win. However, how can the 49ers win this game? And the way I look at it is the 49ers are the more physical team. And what they really need to do is kind of go back to basics and don't try to outthink the Kansas City Chiefs because you can't. You got to beat them up. I think you got to run the ball, and it doesn't have to be just McCaffrey. I think Deebo Samuel has to have a good day running the ball. By the way, general over-under rules. If you're going to take an over, you should have already done it by now. But if you want to take an under, wait. Some of these numbers didn't jump the way I thought they would. But the 49ers, I think, really got to run the ball. You don't want to get in a shootout with the Chiefs. You really don't. Can they win a shootout against Kansas City? Absolutely. But I think what they need to do is utilize their physicality, because they are the more physical football team. They are the more look, I'm a Chiefs fan, so me telling you that the 49ers are the more physical team is hard for me to do. It's true. The 49ers are the more physical team. They got to dumb things down. The game's really going to be won in the red zone. And that's something I've been hearing over and over again, is that the 49ers are practicing red zone offense almost more than anything else. And that's important because once you get in the red zone, you don't want to rely on the rookie kicker. You don't want to kick field goals. You want to score touchdowns. And that's something that the Kansas City Chiefs have been struggling with. So offensively, you got to just beat the Chiefs up. And it's easier said than done because the Chiefs defense is the better defense. But you can run against them. Why Baltimore didn't do it, I have no idea. I'm grateful. Give us a gift, but that's what happened. Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion, will be MVP if the 49ers win this game. I'm not saying he's going to go over 100 yards, but I think that if he does go over 100, it's a little more likely that the 49ers are going to win this game. I would have Deebo Samuel run the ball. I would use McCaffrey in the passing game. It wouldn't surprise me if McCaffrey has 30 touches in this game, and it wouldn't surprise me if he has a lot in the receiving. But that's how I see the 49ers winning. It's just saying, look, I'm not taking anything away from Shanahan as a coach, but what I would do if I was Shanahan is I'd put my ego aside and I'd say, look, I can't outsmart Andy Reid. I can't outsmart Steve Spagnuolo. But I can beat up this team. McCaffrey's a physical dude. Trent Williams, one of the best left tackles to ever play the game. I got big physical offensive line. I got the best running back in football. I got one of the best fullback's kind of a dying position, but had this great blocking tight end. Let's not overcomplicate things. Let's just beat up this Chiefs team. And then let's beat them up on defense. Don't get overly creative. Don't try to blitz Mahomes. You will lose. Don't try to outsmart them. But can you beat up the Chiefs receivers? Can you beat up Travis Kelce? Can you just rush 4 and win? Joe Thuney's out. He's probably. I think he's the best Chiefs offensive lineman. So Chiefs' best offensive lineman's out of this game. Can your 4 beat Kansas City's 5? If you can, you're going to win. But here's a drill. Just keep everything in front of you, force field goals, and then score touchdowns. Pretty simple. It's draft. We are going to dive, not next week, of course. I'll be gone, but the week after, I'm going to break down how I look at each NFL team. I'll give you guys my perspective. And I want to hear from you guys, too, because maybe you guys, especially I got a lot of love from Lions fans. I want to hear what you Lions fans are thinking about your team. I'm going to level with you. I use a very simple plus-minus system. I'm looking at the Lions as a minus, not because of what they lost, but just when you have several years of losing and then you have one big year, and I understand it's kind of a slope, but I think you'd either plateau or dip a little bit. So Jimmy says, I'm really surprised 49ers are favorites. I'm not. I would have put them at 1.5. I'm a little surprised it's 2. I'm pulling up DraftKings, and by the way, just so you know, I have accounts on just about everything, but I'm going to use DraftKings today. But DraftKings is stayed at 2. I'm not surprised. I'm a Chiefs fan, and I wouldn't take the 2. I wouldn't take the money line, but I like Patrick Mahomes win MVP for plus 125. That's the only bet I got on the game. I think it's a good one. So if you're a 49ers fan, I think it's more likely McCaffrey wins MVP than Purdy. Purdy's plus 235 and McCaffrey's plus 450. So, Shannon and Steve with needs to outcoach Andy Reid and Steve S. The 49er players need to come out strong. See, here's the thing. If I'm San Francisco, here's what I do. I say, look, they're smarter than us. These are these nerdy motherfuckers that are just smarter than us. That's how I would do it. That's how I would approach this. I would just say, look, they're smarter than us. They can outthink us. They can out-scheme us. We're the more physical team. That, by the way, Chiefs fans want to get mad that I'm calling 49ers more physical. That's fine. It's true. The 49ers are the more physical team. Don't outthink the Chiefs. Say, what can we do? Well, here's what you do. You beat them up. You have a fullback. Kansas City doesn't have fullback. You have a tight end who blocks. Kansas City's got Blake Bell, who's the third string blocking tight end. Don't overthink this. And the one thing they've been doing is they've been practicing over and over again red zone offense. Defensively, here's what you do. Keep everything in front. Double team Kelsey. You put your best corner on, which I think is Charvarius Ward. I think it's a good matchup. Put him on Rice. Double team Kelsey and say, listen, run the ball, dink and dunk. No Kelsey. We're going to put our best corner on Rice. Get in the red zone and kick field goals. And Kansas City's done that a lot. They kicked, what was it, 4 or 5 against Miami, couple against Buffalo. I remember they kicked, I think it was 6 against Cincinnati. But that's the way I see it. If you're the 49ers and you're sitting here trying to get into a chess match, you're going to lose. If you come out and say, look, we're tougher, we're more physical, we're going to beat you up. By the way, Detroit week 1, that's exactly what Detroit did. Keep in mind, they went for a fake punt. They went for it on 4th down. They got a few lucky bounces, but that's what they did. And that's how you beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. You don't try to outthink them. You try to beat them up, and you can do it. So, Kansas City can run the ball, and Kansas City wide receivers can catch the ball on a consistent basis throughout the game. The 49ers are done for. If the 49ers come out flats over them, Kansas City's defense is too good. Absolutely. The one difference between these two teams is that if this is going to sound crazy, especially what happened in the NFC Championship, if the 49ers get out to a 3-score lead, let's just say call it 24-7, Kansas City can come back. But if Kansas City gets up 24-7, I think it's over. I really think it's over. That's the biggest difference between these two teams. If Kansas City gets out to a three-score game and they make the 49ers one-dimensional, they're in trouble. If Kansas City gets down, they can go, you know what? We got Mahomes. We got some receivers. Let's just play ball. I don't think the 49ers can do that. And you're going to say, Dan, what happened about Detroit? Kansas City's got better defense than Detroit. Kansas City's got more pass rushers. But Joe Thuney, the best offensive lineman for the Chiefs, is out. Charles Omenihu tore his ACL in the NFC Championship game. I know the 49ers got some injuries in the secondary. That's a big issue, so I'm not using excuses, but that's kind of what I'm looking at. I can see wide receivers need more than just Rice, more than Justin Watson, etc. Yeah, exactly. Justin Watson needs to have a good game. Watch out for Noah Gray, second-string tight end, a guy I absolutely love. I think he needs to have a big game. When I say big game, he could have 5 catches for 41 yards, but are 3 of those first downs. Because if I'm the 49ers, I don't try to outthink Kansas City's offense. I just say, okay, look, I got 2 really good linebackers that can pass protect. I'm going to bracket Kelsey. I'm going to put my best corner. I'm going to have Charvarius Ward follow Rice around, and I'm going to say, win a one-on-one, try to get a penalty, or one of your other guys who have had drops throughout the year beat us. And then once you get inside the red zone, everything changes. The one thing the 49ers have been doing, I keep hearing this over and over again, is that they keep practicing red zone offense. That's going to be where the game's won and lost at. The San Francisco, I think San Francisco is not going to do anything overly creative. I think that they're just planning on trying to be more physical, and it's smart. Do you think either team would elect to receive the ball to coin toss as a prop for plus 900 for either team to elect to receive -3? Wow, I don't think so. I think both teams really want the ball in the second half, especially a team like Kansas City. Kansas City will 100% defer. Is there a possibility San Francisco would do that? Maybe. So we'll see. I'm going to let you know. Jimmy, I'm telling you right now, I'm not a big fan of bets like this, but I wouldn't recommend taking it. But plus 900 is good value. But it's San Francisco is the only team that would do that, and that's an iffy thing. And I think San Francisco would rather have the ball to start the second half. That's just my opinion. The defense for the Lions was their weakness. The meltdowns happened because the Lions defense couldn't stop the 49ers. I thought it was a combination of things, really. I brought this up to Funk. Funk didn't like it either. But I remember the Gibbs fumble, and I'm like, you're up by quite a bit, and you're able to run the ball. And do I want my bigger, more physical veteran running, or do I want my smaller, shiftier rookie running the ball? And I Funk's like, Dan, it wasn't really Gibbs' fault. And I was like, I get that, but I'm trying to protect the lead. Do I want my running back who's about 20, 30 pounds heavier and a veteran running the ball, protecting the lead, to go to the Super Bowl? Or do I want my smaller rookie running back to run the ball? There's a lot of things. I didn't rewatch the game. In all fairness, Perry, I didn't go back. But if I did, I think that I would look at because I remember watching the first half and I said, the Lions are the best team in football. And I was like, I hope the 49ers get back, because the way the Niners played the first half, I've never seen a team play any better. Like, that was just amazing. So Mahomes needs to run the ball to keep it. Yeah, I think Mahomes, I'm going to go over rushing props, but I expect a lot of 4-man rushes, and that's going to be kind of key because your number one offensive lineman's not going to play. And Joe Thuney, the Chiefs offensive line's fine. By the way, I'm not using the excuse 49ers have a lot of injured players in that secondary, so that's an advantage for Kansas City. But I expect the 49ers to just be bland and basic and allow Kansas City to move the ball up and down the field until you get in the red zone. And that's kind of what I'm seeing. I'd like to see the Kansas City Chiefs try to be physical and run the ball, and then once they get inside the red zone, have Mahomes try to make plays. But I think Mahomes rushing over is a good number. Jimmy, I'm going to give you some good prop bets. The only one I made. So I don't like telling people what to bet when I don't bet it myself, but the only bet I made was Mahomes win MVP at plus 125. But I'm wearing a Chiefs shirt. I'm a Chiefs fan. So yeah, I'm, yeah. Ben Johnson, Dan Campbell stopped running the ball when they had the lead. That's got, I just remember that Gibbs fumble took the life right out of the Lions, and they did not recover. And it's kind of funny because like all this toughness I kept hearing when Gibbs fumbled, that whole team just fell apart. And I was really, I was really kind of disappointed. But I mean, the first half, I'd never seen a team play as good. That was just dangerous. Our corners are good. Our corners are really good. That's why if you're the 49ers, don't sit here and say, you know what, we're going to try to win matchups. We're going to try to out-scheme Spags. No. If you're the 49ers, you go into the Super Bowl and you say, look, we're going to bully these guys. We're going to beat these guys up. We're going to be more physical. We're going to punch them in the mouth, and we're going to win. That's what I would do. But the thing is, Shanahan's a good coach. Shanahan's a smart coach. And there's a lot of ego that's going to be involved. You know, he's going to be thinking, you know what, can I get these guys? And that's the whole thing. This Super Bowl for the Niners to win has to be very simple. Brains versus brawn. You're the more physical team. You got to beat them up. You got to beat them up. I got some prop bets I'm going to go over in order. There's a few I still like. But the only one I took was Mahomes at plus 125 to win MVP, and that's the only bet I made. Oh my God. Oh my God. The B in the Back Talk brothers. The talent. The great one. Gooch. So you know, Gooch, it was a great show with Keys. I felt bad because I listened to almost the whole show, but I wasn't able to contribute. And I guess I gave you guys some misinformation because I could have sworn it was either the NFL Network or ESPN reported it was going to be Browns Eagles week 1 Friday in Brazil. And I thought that was a fact. And Keys like, Dan, shut the fuck up. You're wrong as usual. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. Thanks, Keys. You know, by the way, I haven't been invited on the show lately, Gooch. Just throw that out there. Keys was going to do the TPT podcast earlier today. They do like a half an hour special. He canceled on Keys to do some blow. So no, actually I made that up. He's got an issue, but I told Keys I didn't get an invite on that either. Like guys, come on, but the Lions are a young team and they need experience. It's about learning to win. Brad Holmes needs to fix the defense. No ifs and buts. No, I agree. They have a lot of free agents on that team. I saw it was something crazy. The Lions, I think, have like the fewest players signed under contract than any other team. It was something crazy. So that they're going to lose a lot of players. There's a lot of guys, and it's really funny. One of the things you always see from fan bases always think, my team's going to get a hometown discount. There's Carolina Panthers fans right now going, Brian Branch, he's going to take a hometown discount. No. And there's a lot of Lions fans, I think, that would be disappointed by players who do not want to take a hometown discount because of all the excitement. If you're a Penei Sewell agent, are you going, hey, let's take a hometown discount? No, you're going, hey, listen, you're the reason why these guys are so excited. If you're a Monroe St. Brown's agent, by the way, matter of fact, you know what? I'm gonna look this up because I forgot it, but I think it's like Vegas International or something like that. I'm gonna look this up really fast. I apologize because I really should have this down, but I looked this up for Monroe St. Brown. His agent. Let me see if I'll bring this up really fast here. I'm sorry. I lied to you. It's the Vanguard Sports Group. So I lied to you. Never mind. Vanguard Sports Group. I lied about that. It's actually located in North Carolina. Never mind my point. I'm just making shit up now. But but here's the drill. Like a lot of people think that their players are. If you're a Monroe St. Brown's agent, you're going, hey man, you're the one who's generating this excitement. Time for Detroit to pay up. Kansas City has some tough decisions to make too in free agency. So you know what? I actually would love to. I need to just take a Wednesday night off and come on and we can have some fun. I love talking. I actually begged Keys to come on tonight's show, and he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna watch some porn, some guy on guy stuff." And no, he didn't say that. Yeah, you guys got a lot of free agents. CJ, GJ, Mosley, Jackson can walk. You guys are gonna have a lot of guys. But here's what I would do if I was Detroit with your two big guys. you can give you a 5th-year option to Penei Sewell. You can also franchise him. That's kind of the way I would go. I would break the bank for Amon-Ra, though, and I would try to sign him before Justin Jefferson signs. That way you could try to make that. Justin Jefferson supposedly is going to get like $35 million a year from the Vikings. Probably deserves it. So Goff's an interesting situation. What do you do with Goff? Because if you give him the same type of money that the other upper echelon quarterbacks get, you can't re-sign those players, and it's tough, man. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do. So, but I want to get into prop bets here. So passing yardage prop bets, these have been going up a little bit. I actually thought they would get a little higher. Brock Purdy's 247.5, Mahomes 261.5. I like the under for Mahomes, to be honest with you. With Purdy, I really don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. I would lean towards the under as well, but I would avoid that. If you're going to bet one of these, I would take the under from Mahomes. But if the 49ers get out to a lead, Patrick Mahomes could go past happy. But I like the under on this, but I don't feel really good about any of these. I'll be honest with you. I don't know the Goff situation contract, Barry Bob. I'm going to look into that, but I wait on Goff until next season and just tag him. He may not accept the tag. So a lot of quarterbacks have clauses in their contract saying you can't tag. I'm a little curious how they're going to handle the Goff situation, because, in my opinion, even though he's not elite, I would try to keep Goff in Detroit. But if you ask for too much money, you may have to go to Hendon Hooker route, but you have absolutely no idea what you got in that guy. What my thought process is that Hendon Hooker is your number 2 guy, and you see a lot of him in preseason, and then he'll play a little bit of time during the regular season next year. And if he shows you something, then you play hardball with Goff. If he doesn't show you anything, then you say, well, Goff, what do you want? And try to make it work. Receiving props, I really thought some of these would go up a little higher. Travis Kelce's at 70.5. I'm leaning towards the under on that, but I wouldn't touch that because I really thought it'd get higher to 75. Some of these other yardage numbers I do like. One of the things, and this is just kind of a hunch, I think George Kittle kind of needs to be used in this game. And so, like, George Kittle's 49.5. He had a 1,000-yard season. And I kind of lean towards the over on Kittle. Christian McCaffrey, the number's 33.5. I like the over on that one as well. But keep in mind, again, if you like the over on these numbers, you should have already took them. I do like the under on Kelce because I just got a feeling the 49ers are going to try everything they can. By the way, in the previous Super Bowl, 7 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. It would not surprise me if Kelce has like 8 catches, 50 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It wouldn't surprise me at all. So I got a feeling Goff won't sign a new contract and just following Ben Johnson next year. That's definitely a possibility. This is an interesting draft and interesting free agent period for quarterbacks, but I don't know when Goff's contract's up. I think he's locked in till the end of 2024, and then I think you can get a little creative. I'll talk about that a little more. Is it possible he's going to follow Ben Johnson? Maybe, but it's a little. I've heard that a few times from you guys. It's very unlikely that a quarterback follows an offensive coordinator. It usually doesn't happen that way. Also, Isaiah Pacheco, 17.5 is the number for receiving. I kind of like that number. There are some prop bets I like for rushing. This one's gone up quite a bit. It was 13.5 last show. It's now 16.5. Deebo Samuel, I really like the rushing yards there. CEH, 6.5. Less than 7 yards. I think he gets at least 3 carries. I like that number. Brock Purdy, 12.5 rushing yards. I like the over. I wouldn't go hog wild on it. Patrick Mahomes, 25.5. It's a big number. Goff had his best season. Oh, I'm by the way, Perry, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also look at everything else Detroit has. You have a really good offensive line. You got 2 really good running backs. You got Laporta. You got Amon-Ra. You got a lot of things going good for you. The thing is, it's very rare that a coach follows his offensive coordinator. Usually, if the offensive coordinator leaves, the quarterback stays. That's usually how it works. I don't really, to be honest with you, that's just kind of the standard. That's kind of what I see happening is I think Ben Johnson next season will find a team that says, hey, look, let's work together. And now Ben Johnson, if the here's the drill, man. If the Lions have a bad season, remember Byron Leftwich? He got some offers and he's like, I'm gonna stay in Tampa, and then he got fired. Like was it 1 or 2 years later? That happens as well. So I mean, I personally think Ben Johnson making a big mistake turning down what could be generational money. However, if he has another good year, there could be some good jobs. When if the Giants job's available, maybe he's holding out for New York. I mean, that could be a lot of fun. Other positions that could be available. I mean, I really don't know off the top of my head, but New York's probably my number one hot seat going in next year. Maybe Philly. I mean, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. Golf is nothing. That's another issue. I mean, what if you're Penei Sewell and you're like, hey, look, I want 100 million or I'll sit out. What do you do? But yeah, the offensive line in Detroit's just phenomenal. Funk, what's up, brother? Funk says, I want to see what happens with Hooker. Golf is great when he's protected like a top 3 in the league. I mean, look, is how many offensive lines are clearly better than Detroit? Is there a better right tackle in Penei Sewell? Probably not. So I got the water from the refrigerator. The unit I'm staying. I usually pour it through a filter. This tastes like ass. So, oh God, that's awful. I'm never drinking that stuff again. I'm sorry. Golf is protected like top 3 in the league. He's awful when he's not protected like the worst in the league. I don't want to pay that top quarterback. You know, you got a great point. It's not that hard to look really good when your offensive line is elite. And I haven't seen Hooker play in the NFL yet, but what I saw in college, because I watched a lot of Jared Goff in college, Hendon Hooker has a much higher ceiling. He has a much lower floor. So you're rolling the dice. I mean, Jameis Winston, great example. All talent in the world. Top 10 NFL arm. Why isn't he a starter? He makes a lot of mistakes. Is Hendon Hooker the same type of dude? The answer is you have no idea. I mean, the lights may come on and he may be complete dog shit. The lights may come on and he may excel. It's interesting. Hooker's a guy I really am looking forward to watching in preseason and seeing what he does. And I'm not looking for him to put up like 30 points a game or anything like that in preseason. I'm looking forward. The one thing I want to see what he does, and I don't know how much Jared Goff does this, but I want to see Hendon Hooker go through progressions. I want him to go like, left to right and not just check down. I want to see him hit option 3. I want him to like go left to right and then back to left. I want to see a lot of things, but if Hooker looks good in preseason, Here's the deal. If Hooker's going to be your number 2 quarterback, he's probably going to play some next year. Hopefully it's just garbage time stuff, but does he excel? Because if he does, you got a legitimate, because you may be able to get somebody who's pennies on the dollar and you can keep a lot of those pieces in play. However, if Hooker does play well, you got to pay him in a year or two. If he's your starting quarterback in 2025, in 2026, you got to give him a lot of money. That's another thing you got to think about. If Hooker does well next year, Goff's okay. So here's the drill. Let's say Goff's contract's up at 2025. Okay. If Hendon Hooker is the starting quarterback in 2025 and he plays lights out in 2026, that offseason, you got to pay him a boatload of money. You may not want to do that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Goff's last year on the Lions roster is next year per current contract. So one more year for Goff, and then we'll find out. But I'm really excited to see Hendon Hooker play in preseason next year. That's been said that 90% of J-Mo's routes, he's the third option. J-Mo never gets targeted. I don't think Goff go through his progressions as well. Hooker is smart, became another year on contract as he was. Okay, so you may gain another year, but if you're Hendon Hooker, let's say 2025, and you throw for 4,500, you run for 600, and you're like second or third MVP, do you want to stay on third round rookie salary, or do you say, hey guys, show me the money, and more likely you're saying, show me the money. But yeah, I didn't know about that. And that's another thing. Why is J-Mo? Well, you know what, to be option, to be fair, Laporta and Amon-Ra should be 1 and 2. But I remember I'm not trying to bring up bad memories, Funk. I'm not trying to rub it in your face. I really am not. But when I saw J-Mo score that touchdown, I'm like, oh my God, is this the coming out party? Is this going to be the Robin to Amon-Ra's Batman? And a guy that you mean that can do a little more, and then like I'm not going to go back and watch the game. I'm not going to go back. How many more targets did he get? Yeah, he's not. He just wasn't, and I really don't think you're using him right. I actually think that at this point you should just trade him. You should just trade him. Perry Means Hooker would be a restricted free agent after his 4th season. Yeah. And by the way, here's the drill. Hooker may just say, hey, I have a great season. I mean, who could he remind you of? When he has a Josh Allen type of season, like a dozen rushing touchdowns, over 4,000 passing. Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I remember that play, he scored that touchdown, and I was like, oh my God, is this what you guys are, like I seriously, okay, this is my perspective. Kansas City's going to the Super Bowl. Who are we going to play, 49ers or Lions? I'm watching Jameson Williams break tackles. I got Amon-Ra. I got the Sam Laporta, who everybody thinks would look better in a Chiefs uniform. And then I got this defense swatting down balls, Brian Branch flying everywhere. I'm like, holy shit. God, no, please. Can San Francisco come back and win this fucking game? Please. I don't want to see these Lions. I mean, this is some bullshit. You got Amon-Ra, who's the best. I mean, let's say the Lions played Chiefs in the Super Bowl. Amon-Ra's the best receiver on the field. Laporta maybe playing better than Travis Kelce. The offensive line's better. Now I got Jameson Williams, fucking stiff arming linebackers running away from people, scoring rushing touchdowns from midfield. Like, what the fuck? But seriously. Is there a team that's looking at that and going, you guys want a third? Maybe you do. And I don't think it's Ben Johnson. That's the reason he's not getting a rock. You don't think it's been, well, I just remember seeing that rushing touchdown and going, holy shit, this is what we have to face. This stud wide receiver, this stud tight end, two really good running backs, a great offensive line. Now we got this fucker I got to deal with. Oh, fuck this. Please, San Francisco, win this goddamn game, please. I didn't want to play these guys. Then I really didn't. But, we Chiefs fans got fucking lucky, man. If we turn into a quarterback, you sign him. Going into preseason, like Hendon Hooker's like one of the top players I'm really, really going to watch. Like, I really want to see what he looks like. Okay. Rushing yards. I really thought some of these would go up a little higher. Christian McCaffrey's been bordering between 89.5, which he is right now, and I've seen as high as 92.5. If you're a Niners fan, you probably like the over on this. If you're a Chiefs fan, you hope it's the under. I would avoid this. The reason why is that I could see him having like 80 rushing, 60 receiving. I like the over on receiving better. I do think that the Deebo Samuel rushing, which has been going up, you should have already took it, by the way, if you like that number. It was 13. That was 13.5, now 16.5. I think he has over 20 easy. So like, I do like that number. Isaiah Pacheco, I thought would go up a little more. The number's terrible. It's negative 130, but 67.5. CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is 6.5. That I think he gets at least 3 carries in this game. So I think 7 yards is more than fair. That's probably, I'll be honest with you, the rushing numbers here, I like CEH the best. Patrick Mahomes at 25.5. I also like ish. But if you want a good prop rushing bet, CEH 6.5, because the way Pacheco plays, he could get hurt. I mean, he really could. Watch the way he plays. San Francisco's a physical fucking defense. Yeah, CEH may have to come in for a series. That's 7 yards right there. He may not be. Listen, sometimes you just get something for nothing, and like let me pull up my draft board here. All right, let me see here. Okay, so the Giants pick 70th. Okay, the Giants pick 70th. When if you traded? Well, actually, that would not really be smart because you pick 73rd and 92. You 73rd, 90. Let me throw out something a little different. Kansas City wins Super Bowl and they offer a 2nd round pick number 64 for Jameson Williams. You're not using him, and maybe a team like Kansas City. Buffalo at 60. Let me throw out something a little weirder. New England at 68. I mean, if you're not using him, get something that you can use. But I mean, Lions, I didn't realize this. They picked 29, 61, 73, and 92. That's pretty good. So I actually do agree with that, Perry. If Tony plays, and I should have looked that up because that was kind of an iffy subject. I don't know if he plays or not. But if Tony plays, I would use him more as a running back, not as a receiver. Take the over. Yeah, I seriously, I would take the over on CEH in a heartbeat. I kind of like that because I think that he's going to get a handful. He's not going to get a lot. I'm not going to tell you he's getting 10 carries, but I think he's going to get 3 or 4. He's not going to be in Kansas City next year. Kansas City Chiefs don't have anything against CEH, but he was a 1st round pick, and Pacheco's clearly better. So I think you kind of got to go CEH here. Interception number. Let me see if I can find that. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, I'm having a hard time. I don't know why it's not easier. The interception numbers, that's a great. I have no idea why I can't find that. That seems like I'm looking under defense, special team props, and if Kansas City loses a fumble, 49ers total turnovers. But why they're not having interceptions, doesn't make a damn bit of sense. God, I'm sorry, man. I can't find that. At least not on DraftKings. That's really stupid because that's a kind of a no-brainer, to be honest with you. So, oh damn it! There was something here. Funk. I have no idea. It should be passing props. Passing. Okay, here it is. 0.5 for Brock Purdy's negative 140. So over on both. So Mahomes is negative 115. Brock Purdy's negative 140 for one interception. I wouldn't be surprised if either quarterback throws one. Not really good numbers. So Brad Holmes too stubborn to trade anyone he's drafted. That's a possibility too, Jimmy. I'm just saying, if you're a team and you're not using him for whatever reason, I'm a little curious how they operate that. But I got it. It's 0.5. I'm sorry. The answer is 0.5, negative 140 for Purdy, negative 115, and I just looking wrong place. See, I think this draft you do something a little different, Perry. I think you trade down. I think you've been trying to get superstars. Or I'm sorry, let me back up there. It looks like I really think that what you're doing in the last couple of drafts, getting starters, I think this year you draft for depth and try to get players that can be like rotational players. Like, hey, is there a guy in the draft who can't start, but maybe he can spell Aiden Hutchinson for a few downs. We'll get a nickel corner who can be like the dime guy, but if Brian Branch needs a breather, he can come in. Some special teams guys, a third string running back, maybe. Is there a good chance Snead or the other cornerback? I really don't think so, to be perfectly honest. I wouldn't surprise me if they throw it, but I really expect San Francisco to try to just run the ball quite a bit and just not have Purdy try to outperform Mahomes. That's really what you're trying to do. If I was the 49ers, and this is how I think the 49ers win this game, don't sit here and say we can outsmart Kansas City, but just be like, hey, look, I got Trent Williams. I got this blocking tight end. I have this great fullback. I got two big physical receivers. Let's go. Let's go. And when you don't score, if you do punt, keep them deep, play a static, boring defense, and say, hey, look, kick field goals. And we'll just tackle and good luck. That's how I would attack Kansas City. So if the only way I really see the Chiefs corners, the one big difference in this, the two differences between these teams is San Francisco gets out to a 3-score lead 24/7. Kansas City can come back. If Kansas City gets out to a 3-score game, I think it's game over, because in that situation, then yes, the Chiefs corners could get an interception. But I'm anticipating a close game. I think it's going to be close throughout the whole game. I think it's going to come down to an error by either Moody, the 49ers kicker, or by Purdy. That's what I think is going to happen. So, but we'll see. The Super Bowl without turnovers is pretty rare. So if I'm JMO, I call Hendon and hang out with him all off season. I seriously, I always like it when I hear quarterbacks bringing their players down. That's what happened with Patrick Mahomes this offseason. That's why I thought Sky Moore, because he practiced Mahomes all offseason and nothing happened of it. So that by the way, Funk, I'm the stupid one. I was looking in the wrong place. Here I am telling you, hey, I got a bunch of options for prop bets and I can't even find it. So that's on me, man. I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. So that is on me. That is on me. So could be JMO just need time to overcome injury. I don't know, man. I just know that when I saw that touchdown run, he stiff armed, I think, Greenlaw, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And you guys watch more Lions than I do. When I watch it, it just doesn't look like they want to use the guy. And you traded up to 12 to get him, and he's not really a guy that you want to use. That's what I see. And is his personality? Are you not happy about the gambling thing? I don't know, but it wouldn't, seriously, if you're not going to use them, is there a team that would want to give you something that you can use? So need someone opposite Hutch and a cornerback, plus both guards are free agents. And Frank said he's coming back, but how long is he going to be around? And they need an interior offensive lineman. I think stay put or move up. I said this on Key Show Wednesday. I wasn't able to chat as much as I wanted to, but I said, Trey Smith's the guy that's probably going to hold out. Trey Smith's the guy that would fit like a hand in a glove in Detroit. Former 6th-round draft pick, instant day one starter, has been a couple Pro Bowls, but the Chiefs are paying him like a 6th-round draft pick. If I'm his agent, I'm telling him, hey, listen, if you win a Super Bowl, you hold out. You don't report. You don't call. They need to pay you, or they need to trade you. And if I'm Detroit, I'm looking at Trey Smith, and I'm like, dude, come to Detroit, play some smash mouth ball. You'll love it up here. And I really, and by the way, you guys would love Trey Smith. Great Twitter follow. If you were to say, God, build me a run smash mouth guard, it's Trey Smith. He's like 6'4", 330, and I think he's the strongest guy on the team. I agree completely, Perry. I think that's the one thing, is that the receiving prop number is a little low on Kittle. It's 49.5. If I'm San Francisco, I really, really, really try to utilize George Kittle in the passing game, especially in the red zone. But I think Kittle is got to be key in this game. I think he's got to have a big game. And when I say he has to have a big game, he doesn't have to have 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. He needs to block well. He needs to get third downs, and he needs to get that energy going. But him blocking is key. I do think Kittle should have a big game. Now, I appreciate that, Funk, man. The offensive center, Jackson. You're talking about the kid from Oregon. I don't think he is, but here's a drill. He's not going to be available when you pick in the second round. But if you trade out of round 1, and you trade into the second round, if you trade up early, if you're early in the second round, Jackson would be a great pick. No Kittle. Oh, I'm sorry. George Karlaftis. Okay, yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because I think that what the Chiefs are going to do is put Karlaftis on Trent Williams and just try to wear Williams out, and have Chris Jones on the opposite side. The Niners right tackle is kind of a liability. No disrespect. It's Ron. I think it's Ron McClofton, something like that. he's the guy Kansas City's going to need to pick on. And I think that this is Charles Montague being out. He got injured in the AFC Championship game. That's a big loss because he was a guy that Kansas City was really kind of hoping to rotate in, because what they're really wanting to do is just use a lot of guys on this defensive line. And the reason why is I think the key to San Francisco winning this game is to beat Kansas City up. You're not going to outsmart them. Let's just beat them up. Hey, look, I'm going to beat you guys up. I'm smart. I know you guys can outthink us. We're going to beat you up. We're going to run the ball. We're going to pound the rock. We're going to use some end arounds. We're going to get we're going to get Deebo Samuel some running yards. Stop us. I can see them letting Jonah leave and paying someone from the outside more than he would have stayed for. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you right now, Trey Smith, I think could easily hold out, and he's a guy. Seriously, Trey Smith in Detroit, you guys would love him. Like, he will be a fan favorite. You guys will love this dude. It's kind of funny because in Kansas City, he's like a square peg in a round hole because he's a run. If you're a team that has a heavy run offense, a guy like Trey Smith's perfect. Pass protection is kind of his weakness, but he's still a Pro Bowl caliber guard. He's a really good player. Yeah, Trey Smith. So for those of you that don't know, Trey Smith had a weird medical condition. He could only practice once a week at Tennessee and play in the games. It was a blood issue or a heart condition. It turns out to be like when he entered the combine, the doctors figured everything out. He was cleared by NFL doctors to practice and play. But because of this weird medical issue, and because he was a 5-star lineman, he just had this medical issue. So he went to Tennessee, played like a first-round pick. But it turns out to be whatever issue it is, and I don't know the specifics behind it, but whatever it is, it was cleared, and the Chiefs rolled the dice and were like, yeah, we'll take you. And it's been a non-issue. I think he's missed maybe one game in 3 years. But a guy like that, I really want to keep, but we may not be able to. But a guy like Trey Smith, if he went up to Detroit, you guys should love this move. And if you have to trade for him, you might want to. And he's under contract for next year, but he's under a 6th-round pick, so like year 4. And that, look, I mean, Chiefs have a lot of free agents too, so. But that's somebody that I would really, hey, you guys want somebody? So. So solo tackles is kind of a weird one, and tackles and assists is also kind of weird. I would not really recommend any of these numbers, but one that did kind of stand out, if I can find it here. Well, actually, they got a number for Willie Gay Jr., and I don't even think he's playing, so that would be the one I would take the under on Willie Gay at 4.5, and that's tackles and assists. George Karlaftis at 3.5, I think it's a good number. That would be one. I think he gets 4 tackles in this game because I think 49ers are going to run the ball. That's like by the way, it's a defensive prop. I'm not really high on these because you never really know. But as far as tackles and assists, George Karlaftis 3.5 is a solid one. Chris Jones 2.5 is also a solid one. And the reason why I say this is that I'm expecting the 49ers to really run heavy. Oh, man, Denver Gator! What's up, Pete? By the way, Denver Gator, I'm not going to be on next week, but the week after, I'll go into a little more detail. Congratulations, Randy Gradishar. Should have been in about 25 years ago. Made the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Should have been in a long time ago. For those of you that don't know, the Pro Football Hall of Fame class has been announced. I'm going to go into more detail on this in a couple weeks, but I'll give you the names in case you are not aware. Dwight Freeney, Randy Gradishar. Randy Gradishar played in Denver, part of Orange Crush defense in the 70s. Should have been in the Hall of Fame a long time ago. Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Steve McMichaels, Julius Peppers, and Patrick Willis. I would have put Antonio Gates in as a first time. I would have put Antonio Gates in. I would have left McMichael out and put Antonio Gates in. That's the only thing I would do different. However, am I saying Steve McMichael's not a Hall of Famer? No. Antonio Gates is the NFL all-time leader in tight end receptions, and I think that's like the one with. Andre Johnson should have been in 2 years ago. That was I have no idea. That was a big mistake. But Andre Johnson got in. Yeah, Gradishar should have been in a long time ago. That's way overdue. So kudos to the senior committee putting in McMichael and Gradishar. I personally would have put in Antonio Gates. I think Antonio Gates got snubbed, but he'll get in next year. Even though there's some good names next year as well. But Antonio Gates should have been in this year. I'd love to see the Lions move up to 12 this year just because they've been picking at 12 a lot lately. Plus, I'd love to see Latia Tua quit. So I'm probably butchering the name. By the way, yes, he could be there. 12 is where Denver's picking. And Denver's in. I think Denver could be in an interesting spot because I think they want to draft a quarterback. Could they make a move down and try to snag Bo Nix or Michael Penix at 29, not pick him at 12? Maybe. By the way, the move up from 29 to 12 is going to be very expensive. It'll be very interesting. James Williams, what Denver would want to get there, you have to give up some draft capital, maybe a player. I don't know who, but there might be somebody Denver would want. But you'd have to give up a lot, man. You'd have to give up a lot. Denver's a team at 12, though, that could be looking at quarterback. So, yeah, he should have been in like 20 years ago. I'm going to say one thing. I think Pat Bowlen, the Broncos owner, got in after he died. He should have been in like 30 years ago. The NFL, except for Elway, who I think was the first ballot guy, the NFL really doesn't like putting Denver Broncos in the Hall of Fame for some weird reason. Gradishar should have been, and Pat Bowlen should have been like that. I'm a Chiefs fan. I'm like, why the fuck isn't Pat Bowlen? Yeah, so. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to talk about that a little more. But Antonio Gates should have been in. I would have put Gates over. I would have put Gates in over McMichael. I'm not saying McMichael's not a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying Gates is more deserving. That's all I'm saying. There was a guy who tweeted out that Gates changed the game. No, he didn't change the game, but he had more receiving touchdowns than anybody else. But they called Gates, yeah. All right. I'm looking at some of these goofy bets, and I'm not even going to mention any of these. Jeez, where the hell? I went to like regular season MVP for next year. Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are plus 650. That's not a bad one, actually. Not a bad one. Seriously, Denver. I think golf and Sean Payton would work really well. I really do. I think that would work really, really well. If quarterbacks start going to top 10, Penix and Nix might go top 15. So I've been hearing more and more J.J. McCarthy's a guy NFL scouts are falling in love with. I don't see it at all. I really don't. I saw a mock draft where McCarthy went. I'm trying to remember where he went. It was in the 20s, but Penix and Nix were out of round 1. This mock draft had quarterbacks 1, 2, and 3, which I don't think will happen because I don't think the Bears are going to go Caleb Williams. The mock draft I was looking at earlier today, Caleb Williams to Chicago at 1. May goes number 2 to Washington, and then Jaden Daniels goes number 3 to New England. And then J.J. McCarthy went in the 20s somewhere. I forget which team it was. Latu. I'll have to practice that, Funk. I'll have to practice that. But I know you're a big fan of his, but I don't see Detroit trading down this year. I really don't. I know they've done it in the past, but if quarterbacks start going in top 10, Penix and Nix may go top 15. Yeah. I personally think Penix and Nix will go in the first round. I think there'll be 5. I think McCarthy will not go in the first round. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. To me, a Hall of Famer needs to have an impact of the game off the game of. To me, a Hall of Famer needs to have an impact of the game of football. Off or off, I'm not sure. I agree, and that's the thing. All these Hall of Famers are impactful players. All these Hall of Famers are impactful players. I just think Gates is a little more deserving than McMichael. One guy said Gates changed the game. He didn't change the game. He really didn't. But McMichael didn't either. Andre Johnson didn't change the game. Patrick Willis didn't change the game. Julius Peppers didn't change the game. But I would put Gates. I would put Gates in there. The guys that I said, Gates is the big omission. A lot of people feel like Reggie Wayne was snubbed. Reggie Wayne will get into the Hall of Fame someday. Would I put him in over these guys? Maybe McMichael, maybe, but not over Gates. Torrey Holt's a guy who will be in the Hall of Fame someday. He got snubbed, but again, same situation. I really, really like Fred Taylor. I don't have a problem with Fred Taylor not being in the Hall of Fame, though. I don't have a problem with Fred Taylor being in the Hall of Fame. So. I'll be honest. I saw the appeal of Mac Jones. I don't see the appeal of McCarthy. Like I saw an NFL quarterback in Mac Jones. I look at McCarthy. I saw a good athlete for the college game, not for the pro game. The arm, I didn't see an NFL arm. I didn't see anything about his throwing that really impressed me. Now keep in mind, I'm going to say something very mean because Denver Gator loves Will Levis. Like Will Levis, when I watch him play, it's like I see an NFL arm. I see a guy who's built like an NFL quarterback. I watched J.J. McCarthy. I was like, okay, you're a pretty good athlete, but what are you going to run in the 40? I'm like 4.6, 4.7. You're not going to outrun, linebackers and safeties on the pro level. And what kind of a gun do you have? I don't see a guy who's just going back there and picking teams apart. I don't see that guy. When I look at J.J. McCarthy, I don't even know I don't see an NFL starting caliber quarterback. Bo Nix is a raw dude. Penix is a raw dude, but I could see both of those being starting quarterbacks and struggling, but doing some stuff. Jaden Daniels, I think in a perfect situation, which by the way, he's probably going top 5 and he may struggle year 1, but he's a guy that I think needs to sit, but as far as tape, like it's crazy what he did. I need to watch more Drake Moy. May or whatever. I haven't watched this. I know I keep saying that. I haven't had time. I really haven't. I'm going to watch a ton of him. Caleb Williams, God, he has some great film. I get why he's number one on almost everybody's board. Crying to mommy after the loss to Washington. Watching him sulk after the Utah loss, like I that really bugged me. And if I'm an NFL team, I don't want that dude as the number one pick in the draft. Holt belongs in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to tell you that right now. He 100% belongs in the Hall of Fame. So is Reggie Wayne. All these finalists. So there's 15 finalists. I didn't read them all, but Torrey Holt is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Reggie Wayne is going to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I just think that out of all these names, I would put Antonio Gates in. Above McMichael, and he belongs before both these guys. So, yes, okay. So I watched Kaepernick, and I saw the arm strength. I didn't watch him in college, but like when I watched him with the 49ers, I saw the arm strength. I didn't see a lot of like he had no ability to read a defense, and he has no ability to check down, and maybe McCarthy can do all those things. But the one thing that was different is Kaepernick was a former baseball player. He had a chance to play in the major leagues, and he had that big time arm. But I don't see an arm on McCarthy. I saw the I just I never saw one single time McCarthy threw a ball, and I never once saw that's an NFL throw. So Denver Gators boy, Will Levis. I watched Will Levis throw the football like that's an NFL arm. All right. Anthony Richardson, I made a little video about him throwing the ball. I'm like, that's an NFL throw. All right. Jaden Daniels, I can say that about. Caleb Williams, I can say that about. Michael Penix, I can say that about. Bo Nix, I can't say that about McCarthy. I've watched McCarthy play since he was a true freshman. It was like he was splitting time with the other quarterback who transferred. The other quarterback that they had, I didn't think it was an NFL quarterback either, but he had a much stronger arm than McCarthy. It's like, okay, well, you got a statue back there. He went to Iowa and didn't do anything there. You have a statue, but he's got a big arm, and you got McCarthy, he's got a weak arm. I don't even think he has a good arm for college. I don't see it. I really don't see it. So with Cap, I saw the NFL arm. He has no ability to read the defense. The reason why Cap and Harbaugh worked is that Cap put Harbaugh in mid-season to replace Alex Smith. And Harbaugh said, listen, I'm going to dumb this down and make this a college offense. Do you remember the Wildcat? Do you remember when Miami started doing the Wildcat? Nobody knew how to figure it out, but then in the offseason, they figured it out. That's why Kaepernick had success, is because they just ran a college offense. So listen, Cap, here's what you do. You're going to be a run-first quarterback. They're not going to know what to do. But when you throw the ball, it's going to be 1, 2, run. And that's it. Once you had, then the offseason came, it's like, hey, Cap, now we need you to be an NFL quarterback. And he had no idea what to do. So he just took a knee. Well, actually, he got benched. And because he signed a terrible contract that gave the 49ers a chance to cut him without a loss to the Niners team, he took a knee. And by the way, that's all it was. It was publicity stunt. He's not a social activist. The guy's well. Anyway, sorry. Hall of Fame equals can you tell an NFL story without being a major part of it? No, I agree. I agree. And that's like all these finalists are guys that really contributed to the NFL. And the thing is that Gradishar was, part of the biggest part maybe of the Orange Crush. A lot of these guys, Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Jahari Evans. I forgot how good he was. He's a guy probably will make Hall of Fame one of these days. Yeah, I agree. Williams is Murray 2.0. I'm telling you right now, I think what's going to happen, it's just a matter of time. Washington and Chicago are going to flip-flop picks. It's probably going to happen in March. I really think that talk's already gone underway. It just hasn't happened yet. So I might be the only Lions fan that thinks Holt should have been in the Hall before Calvin. You might be, and the reason why is I hear a lot of Lions fans think Calvin Johnson's the second best receiver in the NFL history. I always will put Moss over Calvin Johnson. Holt is phenomenal, and Holt's a Hall of Famer. Let's be very clear. He is a Hall of Famer. He's just not in yet. He will get in. I'm just not sure when. But I mean, I don't have a problem with him. I'll be honest, if you put Holt in before McMichael, I wouldn't have an issue with that. Out of all the people, I think they got snubbed the biggest is for me is Gates. So I put the son John. Hey, that's kind of funny. You guys hate Calvin Johnson. That's kind of funny. That's kind of funny. So there's a player's first option, which is kind of a fun thing. There's a lot of neat, fun passing props, and I'm sorry it took me so long to figure out the interceptions funk. That's just me being a dumbass. But out of the prop bets that I really, really, really like, matter of fact, CEH right now has just dropped the 5.5. So I really like that number. I really like that number. Oh, I'm sorry. That's receiving yards. I'm sorry. Receiving yards for CH 5.5. So I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong thing. I flipped on that. But the Kelsey, I was originally really high on the under, but 70.5, I would kind of avoid that. I do like McCaffrey over 33.5 as far as receiving. So if Moss played the same amount of years as Rice, he'd have better numbers and he'd be the GOAT. Yeah, it's funny because I remember the story, what happened about when he came back to Minnesota, and that was just a complete disaster. Brad Childress didn't want him there. If you don't remember the story, I think Randy Moss even admitted this. I think he apologized. I don't know, but they had a family-owned company there in Minneapolis catered to the Vikings, and they brought him food. And Randy Moss came out yelling, "I wouldn't feed this slop to my dogs." And he sat in front of the owner, and the owner was really upset about the whole situation because I think he was like he just brought it in like as a promotion, like it was free. And that's the reason why Moss was dismissed from the team. Whoever made the decision, whether it was Childress or the general manager, they didn't consult the owner, and the owner was not happy about that. By the way, Brad Childress didn't last long. That doesn't happen, and he stays with Brett Favre. Maybe the Vikings beat the Saints, and he wins the Super Bowl. If Moss stayed in New England, he wanted a big contract, and it didn't happen, so he went back to Minnesota. Then he got cut from Minnesota. When Kaepernick quarterbacked the 49ers, Randy Moss signed late in the season, but he wasn't. Randy Moss, by the way, did the 49ers the biggest solid. He goes, "I'm the greatest receiver who ever lived, and you should pay attention to me in the Super Bowl." And he said that because Kaepernick was having a real hard time with the media coverage and handling everything. So Moss took a lot of heat trying to be a good teammate. But yeah, I mean, Randy Moss was a different type of dude. He really was. But motivated Randy Moss is the best wide receiver I've ever seen. And Randy Moss is the most athletic receiver I've ever seen. So Calvin only caught 55% of his targets too. I didn't know that. I actually didn't know. I don't have T.O. over Calvin. I'm an anti-T.O. guy. Johnson is a big chunk. I'm not a T.O. guy. And I'm gonna give you the craziest thing ever. Earth versus the Klingons for world domination. I could have any player in his prime, and I have to win the game. Wide receiver, I'm probably taking Michael Irvin. Like I need to win a game. Fuck 100 yards. Fuck touchdowns. Fuck. I need to win. Who's the wide receiver I want? It's probably Michael Irvin. That is seriously. I think Belichick secretly really regrets that because Moss wanted really big. Remember they traded for Moss. It was like a 4th round draft pick, and he came to camp with a chip on his shoulder. Had those 23 touchdowns, the undefeated season, and I think he signed a 2-year deal, 2 or 3 year deal. I don't remember, but he's like, hey, look, I did everything you asked me to. Now you got to pay me. And the Patriots like, no. And he's like, well, it's no big deal, but I'm going to leave because I want to get paid. I mean, look, you set an NFL record for touchdowns. Receiving touchdowns, which he did. You're part of statistically the greatest offense of all time. At the time, that was true. Part of an undefeated regular season. It makes sense for Randy Moss to say, hey, look, it's time for you to pay me. And the Patriots said no. And I think going back, I think Bill Belichick should have said, you know what, we should just give him what he wanted. We should just made it work. Did something. So the playmaker is in my top 5 for sure. He wanted DBs be on him when the ball was coming due to something else. He made Troy. Yeah, exactly. When it was funny because the Cowboys did their top 10 Cowboys of all time, and Aikman, I want to say was 9 or 10, and then Emmitt Smith was 5, and then they brought Michael Irvin at 3, and that was correct. By the way, Tom Landry was 1. I was really surprised that they put Michael Irvin at the top of the triplets and they had him at number 3, but they were right. If I do a top 10 receivers of all time list, which I may or may not do, I'll put Rice at number 1. But if I had to say, give me a receiver to win a game, it's Michael Irvin, because Michael Irvin was one of those guys, despite all the bravado, he really didn't care. All he wanted to do was win. Jerry Rice would rather have 10 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns and lose than 3 catches, 20 yards, and a win. And Rice was adamant about that. Like, he wanted his numbers. He cared about his stats, and most wide receivers do. Michael Irvin really didn't care. Michael Irvin just wanted to win. And Michael Irvin did do that. Michael Irvin didn't care if he didn't catch a single ball. But if you were losing, then he was like, look, give me the ball. But if you were, he had no problem blocking for Emmitt Smith. None. Because they're winning Super Bowls. Like I said, Earth versus the Klingons for world domination. Give me Michael Irvin probably for anybody else. I do a top 10 list. I'm putting a lot of guys above Michael Irvin. But, Michael Irvin's one of those dudes that, like, if I needed to win a ball game, give me Michael Irvin. So, Troy Brown, I'm drawing a blank on who won Super Bowl MVP for them one year. That was Tom Brady's best friend on the team, drawing a complete blank. The Patriots ended up re-signing him from Seattle, and I'm drawing a complete blank on the guy's name. Won the NFL MVP. So Perry, I find it crazy that people don't even realize most of Calvin's targets were 12 yards and under, and most of his drops came from Lions fans for the most part, just ignored the bad. I didn't really know this, and I'm kind of surprised that you guys aren't on board with him being like the greatest receiver of all time. But that's smart, and this is why I love doing this show. I love talking football with smart dudes. I got him at 5th, Perry. I should, by the way, if you go by my list, top 10, I have my top 10 running backs of all time. I got Eric Dickerson at 5. Actually, 5 or 6. I'm drawing a blank now. So here's the drill. On my list, 4, 5, and 6, you can put in any order. I have O.J. Simpson, Eric Dickerson, and Emmitt Smith. And I think I have O.J. at 4, Emmitt 5, Eric Dickerson at 6, but it may be Eric and Emmitt flipped. I don't have Eric Dickerson as the second best of all time. I have that as Walter Payton. Walter Payton is the second best. For a long time, I had for a long time, I had Barry Sanders at number 2 and Walter Payton at 3. But I think Walter Payton can do everything on the football field. Barry Sanders can't. If I was just saying, hey, who's getting the ball 30 carries in a game, then I would take Barry Sanders over Walter Payton. But if I was saying, hey, give me 30 touches in a game and do everything else, then it's Walter Payton without a question. Walter Payton, to be honest with you, could play in today's game. I don't even know if Walter Payton's a running back. I think in today's game, he might be a safety. He may be a corner. He might even be a wide receiver in today's game. It was funny. I was thinking about this. Thurman Thomas, who didn't make my top 10, but if I did top 15, he would be in it. Thurman Thomas in today's game would be a wide receiver. Same thing with Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk is on my top 10. I think he's 8. Yeah, Faulk's 8. No, yeah. Marshall Faulk's 8. I'm surprised you guys are smart enough to see that. Really surprised. Yeah. So here's the drill. If you want to tell me, I did top 10 quarterbacks live stream. If you tell me it's not Brady, great. A greatest receiver of all time. If you tell me it's not Rice, that's fine. Greatest offensive lineman of all time, you can give me an answer. For me, I think tackle, guard, and center are all different answers, but I'll have an argument with you. Best corner of all time, go for it. But the best running back of all time is Jim Brown. There is no debate. If you give me any other answer other than Jim Brown, then you are wrong. That's period. I'd probably put Tim Brown above Calvin as well. I say if Tim Brown's drafted by Niners and Rice was a Raider, so here's the drill about Tim Brown. I want to say his second year. It may be his third. He tore his ACL. In today's game, Tim Brown would come back and be the same speed, but because back then he went from being, matter of fact, look at it, he won the fastest guy in the league, and Tim Brown's a big dude. He was the fastest guy in the league. He went from being the fastest guy in the league to being the slowest Raider receiver, because remember the Raiders had Melvin Fernandez, part of that 4x100 meter relay team. I think they brought in Willie Gold. They had somebody else. So Tim Brown realized that, hey, I lost my speed. But Tim Brown was 6'1", 195 in the 80s. That's a big receiver. And he was built too. Like, he wasn't a little dude. Tim Brown's not a little dude. Tim Brown really focused on route running. Tim Brown really focused on receiving. And if he never had that surgery and he went from being a 4.25 to a 4.45, and one thing, watch Tim Brown like full speed all the time. I remember, like, if I could choose any player from the Raiders, I would be on choose to be Tim Brown. Would you put Gale? So Gale Sayers, to me, is the greatest kick returner of all time. Punt returner, probably Devin Hester. But return specialist could be Devin Hester. It could be Gale Sayers. I don't have Gale Sayers in my top 10. If I was going to do top 10 special teams guys of all time, I don't know who I'd have number 1 and number 2. I'd have to fight over it. I might go Devin Hester. I might go Gale Sayers. And Chiefs fans want to say, what about Dante Hall? He had that one great year, but no. I had Montana at 3. I had him below Johnny U. But I'm not mad. I'm not mad at that. If you want to tell me Montana's the greatest quarterback to ever live, great. I have Brady. I don't think you're wrong, but Jim Brown is number 1. That is no debate. Falk is the same size, height, and speed as Gibbs. I think he weighed 5. Okay. So I don't remember what Falk was, but I watched him play at San Diego State, and there was some questions about his size, but he quickly squashed that. He might play running back. Thurman Thomas was like 5'10", 198. I think Thurman might be a wide receiver, and Falk might be a wide receiver. My point is that guys that played in the past might play different positions today. A guy like Marshall Falk might say, you know what? I could play wide receiver and play for another couple of years and make much more money. When Falk played running back, running backs made more than receivers. Today, a receiver would make more than a running back, and that might have something to do with it. It used to be when Falk played and when Thurman Thomas played, and I mean the NFL's just changed over the last 5-10 years where receivers are making more than running backs. So you're absolutely right. Tim Brown did not have a quarterback until Rich. It was something crazy. They showed all the quarterbacks that Tim Brown played with, and it's just absolutely nuts. Jim Brown, best running back, ran with power and speed. Barry, most elusive running back ever. Sweetness is best all around. I don't care who you put number long as long as those are the top 3. You're right. And so Barry Sanders, easily the most elusive running back of all time. Nobody will be that elusive. Walter Payton could do anything. He could throw. He could punt. I talk about Walter Payton. Walter Payton could play corner. He could play safety. He would be an undersized linebacker, but he'd probably do it. He could be a punter. Walter Payton might be able to play quarterback in today's game. Jim Brown was 230 pounds and the fastest dude on the field. And this was in the 50s. Like today, he would be like 260 running a 4.2. The difference is that Jim Brown had all the things that a small running back does. Jim Brown had balance, body control, agility. I mean, he could make moves. They didn't throw the ball a lot back then, but when he retired, he had more receptions than any other running back in NFL history. Like he could catch the ball. Jim Brown in today's game would be able to do everything. And he never missed a game. I think Montana played in a hard time where defenses were tougher and the rules were fair to the defense. Well, that's kind of why I have Johnny U at number 2. There was a lot of guys there. Johnny Unitas took hits that would be outlawed in Montana's era and ejected for in this game. Teams tried to take Unitas out of the game, and they were like, hey, look, we got it. Like Johnny Unitas, a lot of people thought Drew Brees broke the record. I think Drew Brees has 55 consecutive games of touchdown, but people thought that Johnny Unitas 47 straight games with a passing touchdown. This was in a different time. The thing is, the difference is between Johnny U and the rest. Johnny U did not give a fuck. The only stat he cared about is wins and losses. Not all quarterbacks are like that. Not all quarterbacks are like that. I have Johnny U at number 2. Johnny Unitas invented the 2-minute offense on the fly in the 1958 championship game. I should stop ranting. Here, I could rant about Johnny U forever, but that's why he's my number 2. But you're right, Joe Montana. When Joe Montana came to Kansas City, he had this weird bump on his elbow from the surgery. He looked like he could barely move. The rumor mill was that he hated the Marty Schottenheimer brutal practices. He's like, fuck this. And after 2 years, just said, fuck it. And it was weird because like they put him like on a pitch count, like you're only going to throw X amount of passes and all that other stuff. So the quarterback was Mike Gundy for both those guys, who's now the head coach. Well, Joe Namath's a Hall of Famer for a couple things. The 4,000 yard season, he did that in 14 games. Nobody that was considered untouchable. Joe Namath deep ball was something nobody really seen before, like the arm strength. Earlier in his career, he was an amazing scrambler. But he, in today's game, he would be much more of a dual threat guy because 60 surgery was hit and miss, but the reason why he stopped playing is his knees were shot. I think I heard something like both knees were replaced a long time ago. But no, Joe Namath 100% belongs in the Hall of Fame. The 4,000 yard mark in a 14 game season in the 60s was unheard of. I mean, quarterbacks were throwing back then 2,000 yards in a season. When he hit 4,000, nobody knew that was possible. And to win the Super Bowl win against the Colts is iconic. So today the stats are bad, but 4,000 yards passing in a season, in a 14 game season in the 60s was something considered impossible. And Joe Namath did it. He was the first one to do it. He has more interceptions than touchdowns. Back then, teams really didn't care. A lot of teams, and it wasn't really until the 80s where teams were like, let's not throw interceptions. We're back then, they're like, look, if I throw the ball downfield 30 or 40 yards and it's intercepted, who cares? And that's how teams played ball. And it wasn't until Bill Walsh in the 80s and in the West Coast offense where it was like the passing game is going to be precise and we're going to limit interceptions. And then teams kind of adopted that. Well, like even the Dan Fouts, Air Coryell days, they really weren't that concerned about interceptions. It was really Bill Walsh. So like even in matter of fact, look at Fouts, like some of those seasons he has over 20 interceptions and people really didn't care. But Joe Namath is definitely worthy. The 4,000 yard season in the 60s, nobody saw that coming. Hitting that mark was considered impossible. He was the first one to do it. And him throwing the deep ball is impressive. I held a grudge because I was born in Baltimore and I hated Super Bowl III. So I held a grudge against him for a long time. So still do a little bit. Man. God, this water I got out of the fridge is just absolutely disgusting. So on the sink, I have a filter, and then I filter the water through one of those plastic pitchers with the graphite. You guys hopefully know what I'm talking about. This is disgusting. This is just absolutely horrible. Oh God, I'm gonna pour this out right after a show. So the props. I really don't have much more to go over this. If you want me to go over some more props, Funk, by the way, I'm really, really sorry that it took me so damn long to find interceptions. So there are some really, really, really interesting prop bets for that DraftKings has, but I'm just sticking to Super Bowl ones. The ones that I really, really like. Where are they? No. Okay. The ones I really like, CEH rushing 6.5 yards. That's a good one. Deebo Samuel, even the numbers jumped up, 16.5. That was Len Dawson. Len Dawson won MVP. So Len Dawson's a great story. Len Dawson was the number one draft pick for the Steelers out of Purdue, and it just didn't work out. That's the reason why they drafted Bradshaw. No. Actually, to be honest, he was drafted in the early 60s, and he was the first quarterback of the Chiefs when they were the Houston Texans. And when the Houston Texans won the AFL championship in 1962, Len Dawson was the quarterback for the Houston Texans, and then they came to Kansas City. Well, back then, you had to have a part-time job. And at first he sold insurance, and then the news station in Kansas City asked if he would do sports. So what Len Dawson used to do was right after practice, he would drive over to Channel 5, take a quick shower, get dressed, and he would do the sports news. And then he would also interview players, and a lot of times he'd have to coach his players on what to say. It was kind of funny because like he was with Channel 5 News for like 50 years. And then of course he did all the Chiefs games. He was phenomenal doing Chiefs games. Doing Len Dawson doing play-by-play was amazing. Him and Nick Bonacati started Inside the NFL on HBO. They did it, started it in the 70s. But Len Dawson, that if you watch the 69, if you watch America's Game, watch the Kansas City Chiefs in 1969, and what Len Dawson had to go through was crazy. His father died during the season. He had a knee injury, which doctors told him you're going to be out for the rest of the year, and he kept on going to different doctors. Finally, one in St. Louis told him, well, if you do this, this, and this, you can miss a month. The backup quarterback came in, went 5-0 because the Chiefs defense, the 1969 Chiefs defense is quite possibly the greatest defense of all time. Quite possibly the greatest defense of all time. It's 6 Hall of Famers on that defense. 6. 2 on the defensive line, 2 linebackers, and 2 in the secondary. Right before the Super Bowl, Len Dawson was mentioned in a federal investigation for gambling and racketeering, and was looking to go to federal jail for 15 to 20 years. If you're involved in a crime like that today, you would not even be allowed to play in the Super Bowl. They had to relocate his family. And they're talking like Len Dawson was smoking like 3 packs. There's tons of pictures of Len Dawson smoking cigarettes on the sidelines. But Len Dawson was like his hair was falling out. He lost like 20 pounds. He was smoking 3 packs a day. He didn't know if he was going to jail. He had to relocate his family. And the Vikings come in at like 15-point favorites. He goes and wins MVP. His nickname was Lenny the Cool. And probably the coolest guy in Chiefs history. Nothing against Patrick Mahomes, but probably the coolest guy in Chiefs history. And he stayed in Kansas City, did the news in Kansas City for, I think, like 50 years, just passed away a few years ago. Did Chiefs play-by-play for years and was amazing. Len Dawson doing play-by-play was the best thing in the world. Best thing in the world. And then he also did around the NFL on HBO. he did that. It was him and Nick Bonacotti for like 10 to 15 years. And that's how Chris Collinsworth actually got his first talking job. And then Chris Collinsworth came in. And I mean, it's kind of fun to bash on Chris Collinsworth, but he actually did a great job on inside the NFL, really added something, because these are two older guys. And then you had Chris Collinsworth, who was a young dude. Now he's like the same age as Dawson and Nick Bonacotti. So Vikings quarterback Fran Tarkenton was crazy. I remember Deacon Jones saying, "Guy, yeah." So Fran Tarkenton, one of my favorite players of all time. Players tried to injure Tarkenton, and they hated that dude because he would just get back and just start running around. And when Tarkenton retired, he had more passing yards, completions, attempts, touchdowns than anybody in NFL history. People point out that he was 0-3 in the Super Bowl, and they should really point out that he revolutionized the game. The Vikings, when they had him, were like, this, you're scrambling around, you're improvising. No, they shipped him off to New York, turned New York around, turned them into a winning team. Then the Vikings got him for the last I'd have to look it up, but I know he was with Minnesota, then he was without Minnesota, and then they brought him back, and one of the greatest quarterbacks ever played. My top 10 quarterback list of all time, Fran Tarkenton gets an honorable mention, doesn't make the list, and it's a shame because the modern game is not the same thanks to Fran Tarkenton. But yeah, Tarkenton, people tried to injure Tarkenton, people tried to injure Jim Brown, people tried to injure Johnny Unitas. Like, they hated these guys. It was a different game back then because you really legitimately really hated these guys. Today's game, everybody's friends. They're all, they hang out during the off season. A lot of the guys train together. I know there's like a defensive back groups, like they train together, like the receiver groups all train together. Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen are really good friends. So yeah, Jim Kelly's 0-4 in Super Bowl, Hall of Famer. Love Jim Kelly. Didn't make my list, but a really, 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 really good player. Fran also got to practice running for his life in practice. Oh, God, yeah. So Fran Tarkenton has said, look, I played with the Purple People Eaters. I played against them, and that's the greatest defensive line of all time. I do agree with that, too. I think the Purple People Eaters are the greatest defensive line of all time. Yes, they lost in the Super Bowl, but that defensive line is still the greatest defensive line of all time. But yeah, you're right. I don't know how bad the offensive line was, but that defensive line, the Purple People Eaters, is the greatest defensive line of all time. Alan Page. It's really a shame more people don't know the story behind Alan Page. Alan Page used the NFL. Alan Page and Lawrence Taylor are the only two players in NFL history to be NFL MVP and play on defense. That's how good Alan Page is. Alan Page used the opportunity to be in the NFL to go to law school. Last I heard, he was on the Minnesota Supreme Court. He was a judge on the Minnesota Supreme Court. And supposedly, like in his chambers, there's not one single thing football related. And he is funny because he also was public. He didn't like signing autographs. He thought it was silly for people to idolize him for being able to play a game. But Alan Page is somebody that everybody should look up to. I wish the NFL promoted more guys like Alan Page who said, look, I'm really good at football. Thanks to football, I got an opportunity to go to law school. He took 9 classes, worked his way up. A Supreme Court justice, I mean, like that. It's as far as like the state level, it's as high as you get. I don't know enough about the law, but I love Alan Page's story, and fact that him and Lawrence Taylor are the only two players in NFL history to be NFL MVP and play on defense says something about how great he is. So if Fran was run for his life, the one was not. You're right. Maybe the offensive line wasn't very good. I don't know. I honestly don't think that the offensive line was terrible because they won a lot of games. I mean, there's a reason why they had some really good success. I did a video, top 10 teams to never make the Super Bowl. The 75 Vikings are on that list. And that team was probably the best team that Minnesota ever had. And that team did not go to the Super Bowl. And if you go back, the reason why they didn't go to the Super Bowl is the famous Hail Mary play where Drew Pearson pushed off, and it's obviously pushed off. Even Cowboys fans have to admit that. But I should put it in the comments, my top 10 teams to never make a Super Bowl and my top 10 teams to go to a Super Bowl. If you go to my YouTube channel, you go to my top 10 list, both these videos. I should have put that in the description. The thing is, though, both these channels, I don't think either one of them are monetized because copyright infringements, but they're really great videos. Top 10 tight ends of all time, top 10 Chiefs. I had to change my top 10 Chiefs of all time, by the way. I need to change that list. Top 10 running backs of all time. Wow. I thought my top, I'll be honest with you, with my top 10 list, I thought it was in better order. I'm going to have to go through my internet and I'm going to have to go through this and but this is a video. It wasn't really popular and it's not monetized, but it's really, really good. This is my top. I think both of these are unmonetized. I don't think I can monetize either one of these, but these are really, really good videos. Top 10 teams in NFL history to never make the Super Bowl. Top 10 Super Bowl teams of all time. Neither one of these are monetized, so I kind of not promoting them as much, but they're really, really great videos. Oh God, Dan Marino with McDonald, Mike McDonald. Is it McDonald? That Dan Marino was number 5 on my list. Dan Marino's number 5 on my list. Dan Marino. It's really a shame that when you talk about Dan Marino. When you talk about Dan Marino and you talk about the greatest of all time, you don't see more people mention Marino. You talk about him just not winning a Super Bowl, and it's such a damn shame because he's so good. He's so good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm like an ADD motherfucker. I'm going through here because like I'm looking at my top 10 videos here, and I'm wondering. I wonder if these are monetized. I wonder if I can monetize these. No. So the top 10 is not. Yeah, I can't monetize these videos. So that's kind of why I haven't been promoting them. But God, these are just really great. These are really great videos. Yeah, so these two videos, I don't really promote them because they're not monetized, but these are really fantastic videos. I seriously spend a lot of time on them. They're really, really good. I strongly encourage you to watch them if you're into football history, but both these videos, These two right here, these are just great videos. I'm keeping them open on my playlist. Great videos. What's frustrating is if Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer get a Super Bowl, but Marino doesn't. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. I always try to tell people quarterback wins aren't a stat, and Super Bowl wins aren't a quarterback stat. It's teams. Why did I say this? The Baltimore Ravens, you could have put a lot of different quarterbacks on the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, not just Trent Dilfer. That Bucks 2002 Bucks defense, you could have put a lot of quarterbacks. You didn't need Brad Johnson. God, I seriously, yeah, Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl. Okay. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, I'm running out of steam. Also, I've been having some back issues. It's not the chair, it's not leaning over. Last couple of days, my back's been really bothering me. It's nothing to the show. I think I tweaked something. But I just want to go over some prop bets I do like. Rushing CEH over 6.5, I still like. Even though it's jumped from 13.5 to 16.5, I still like Deebo Samuel over 16.5. Receiving props, I like McCaffrey over 33. And oh God, Rex Grossman, yes. You know what, Funk? It's funny. I watched Rex Grossman at Florida, and I thought that this was a guy that I loved Rex Grossman coming out of Florida. I'm like, this is dude. He's got the NFL arm. I like Dilfer out of Fresno. Brad Johnson, I didn't have so much because he was a backup to a guy by the name of Casey Weldon, who was like 5'10" or something. He played backup quarterback for a long time. Didn't have an NFL arm, but at Florida State, Weldon was a better quarterback than Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson had a longer and better career in the NFL. Kind of weird. They're also both best friends at Florida State. You wouldn't have that today. Brad Johnson would just hit the transfer portal today. But anyway, Rex Grossman was a guy I thought was going to be really good. And I just don't think the guy cared about football. But, oh, God, he was so much fun to watch at Florida. George Kittle over 49.5 passing or receiving yards is a number I like. I thought the Kelsey number would get higher. It's at 70.5. I wouldn't touch that. I thought I'd get 75, and then you jump down on the under. A lot of people are jumping on Rashee Rice. It's out 68.5. I wouldn't touch that because I have no idea. There's a lot of other prop bets. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not really fond of any of them. To be perfectly honest, they're basically sucker bets. I got $10 free bet. I took an alternate because you by the way, with the receiving and rushing numbers, you can take alternative numbers. I took an alternative on the receiving for Travis Kelce, so I made a few bucks. And then I put all of that into plus 125 for Mahomes to win MVP because I'm a Chiefs fan. There's free money. If I win that bet, I'll have $30-some, and I'll probably bet that either on the draft or I'll do. So what happened is last year I made a small bet for the Super Bowl, and then I had that money left over, and I bet the Chiefs to beat the Lions like a dumbass. So Deebo rushing yards, I like a lot. He needs to have a good game. But he doesn't have to have a big game running. I think he has to have a big game. I'm sorry, he doesn't have to have a big game receiving. He has a big game running. So my prediction, 27-23. I like Kansas City. I think the game's close. I think late in the game, it's going to come down to a Brock Purdy interception mistake. Maybe when I say mistake, it doesn't have to be a big mistake. It would be like 3rd and 5, and he throws the ball out of bounds, or he overthrows the receiver. By the way, same thing happened in the Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo missed the throw missed the throw late. That would have maybe won the game. It's going to be a good game. I think the 49ers, if they play physical, don't try to get too cute, they can win this game. I think they need to make it simple. I think Kansas City has to use their game plan, use their defense, and it's going to be a great game. I'm not going to do play-by-play because I'm here in the guest suite. The internet's a third of the speed I got, so not going to do that. Shannon needs to use Debo running, catching. Yeah, I think they need to use Debo running the ball, but I wouldn't resort to trick plays. I think what they need to do is just simplify things and just say, look, we're tougher, we're more physical, we're going to beat you up. And if they do that, they'll win. I think if they get cute, I think they fall into what Kansas City wants to do. I think if Kansas City gets a big lead, I think San Francisco's screwed. Despite of what happened against Detroit, the Chiefs defense is too good. If San Francisco gets a big lead, Kansas City can come back, and that's the difference between the two teams. But we'll see what happens. Guys, if there's anything else, I'm gonna end the live stream. No shows next week. I'm taking next week off. Next Tuesday, I'll be back, and we're just going to go into free agency. I don't know exactly when my first mock draft's going to be out, but we're going to start doing a ton of draft stuff. I'm going to stand by it. I might mock Mike or JJ McCarthy in the first round. I don't think he's a first round pick. Penix should go in the first round, and I think Bo Nix will go in the first round. So, guys, have a good night. Guys, good luck to the Chiefs. I know everybody wants Kansas City to win its second straight Super Bowl, and I'll see you guys not next Tuesday, not in 3 days, but give me 10 days, and I'll be back, and we'll have a lot of fun. It'll be a great show. So I'll see you guys back in a little over a week. Have a good night, good weekend. Go Chiefs!